Yeah, so I'll just do a quick intro of Joyce. I think everybody knows Joyce, so there's no introduction needed. But we are blessed to have Joyce join us again. And Joyce is a dear friend. We both hail from the great state of Minnesota, although Joyce is still there. I'm now out east in New Hampshire. But you know what they say, when you leave Minnesota, your heart's still in Minnesota, right? You can't catch walleyes out here, Joyce. But we our families both, kind of grew up in the Shaklee family together in Minneapolis. And so when we invited Joyce on last weekend, we were honored to have her speak about steps 1 and 2: be your own best customer, and then goals, dreams, and visions. And so Joyce has an encyclopedic knowledge of the products. And we thought, since it was so well received last weekend in the Solid Start workshop, that we would get her back on for a bonus showing, an encore showing, because you can never get enough of Joyce Hoffman. Can I just tell you that? So with that, I'm going to pass it over to hear a little bit more from Lifetime Master Coordinator Joyce Hoffman.
And I get to complete the introduction with Joyce. As some of you heard earlier, Joyce has been a mentor. I don't like to talk to her, to refer to her as everyone's mother, but we also had a mother with Mary Loomis. But we have had such wonderful, powerful leadership from Joyce, and she has been a friend and mentor and business leader for all of us for literally our whole Shaklee careers. And so it is a real honor to have Joyce here. And as you know, she was one of our contributors, primary contributors on the Solid Start this past time, a couple of weeks ago. And by complete demand, we wanted to come back and have her come back. And what I thought I would do is just start with a reminder of what our business process is, because as we know, what we're doing with working together and with Solid Start is the answer to what do we do when someone says yes, that I'd like to do something more and create some more business. And so these are just our steps, and we're going to come back and refer exactly where Joyce is. One of them, step number 1, really kind of behind the scenes, is plug into the systems and the core activities, which is exactly what we're doing here. And so, well, what's step number 1? Sign up and become your own best customer. And this is one of the things that Joyce will be referring to, along with step 2, which is, where do you want to go? What do you want to accomplish? Because if we don't know what you want to accomplish, it's a little tough to put a program together. And then step 3 is, who would you like to introduce to this? Who are the people that you care about, that you'd like to have as a support team, or that you'd like to have know what it is you're doing? And those, I think, without guiding Joyce anymore to what she's, I know, is going to share with us, is I think those are the 3 things that are sort of mixed up. They're not necessarily all in the same order, but those are the things that we want to do when we first get started, because all of the rest of the steps need to follow this. If you don't know where you're going, and you don't have a real clear comfort level with the products and who we're representing and what we're doing, and there's nobody that you even care about sharing this with, then why would we go any further? And so without making that the guideline, I get to introduce our friend and mentor and very special Lifetime Master Coordinator, Joyce Hoffman. Joyce, welcome. So good to have you. Thanks.
I look at this group of faces and think, they've been in this business for years and probably have a lot more knowledge than I do, but I will do my best to share what I do. And that's what I'm going to do. It's nothing that it's not podium talk. It's what I do. Okay. So anyway, on the conversation that we had on Saturday, last Saturday, we talked about the fact that, how do you get your person to be your best customer or a good customer or whatever it is. And when Chuck and I first got in the business, one of the things I often tell people is that I was extremely shy, and I'm sure nobody would believe that today. I had real difficulty getting in front of a group or talking to people or whatever, and it took me 2 years to speak before a group. So we got into Shaklee, and Chuck would always say to me, you know, honey, we're going to go to the meeting, you know, once he convinced me to do this, because it took a lot of convincing. Once he convinced me to do it, he said, now we should try to invite somebody to go to the meetings. And I said to Chuck, I can't do that. And he said, oh, yes, you can. And so he would make a list of people that I should call, okay? And I would wait until the very last day. And then I would dial and I would pray, please don't pick up the phone. And one of the days, one of the people that I called picked up the phone. And I did such a horrible job speaking to that person that I got off the phone and I cried. And so I thought, well, you know what? I can write a letter. So I wrote a letter to this person who lived 5 doors away from me. and I explained to her that I really did you a disservice. I did Shaklee a disservice. And I'd like to explain a little bit about what I was trying to say on the phone. And I said, send her some information if you're interested in, you know, and open to hearing about it. You know, I'll call you back and see what your reaction is. Well, I called back and they weren't interested. But the reality is I'd given her enough information that about 6 months later, a gentleman called us who was this particular insurance agent's, one of his associates, and he was moving to Florida. And he said, you know what? He said, Dan Soley told me that you're in a really great business and that I should explore it. And I thought, oh my word, if I hadn't written that letter, I would never have had him coming to my door. And as a result of that, he became sales leader in Florida. But so anyway, I tell people, I said, you can be terminally shy and you can still build this business. And so one of the things that we did is when we started, you know, presenting the opportunity and whatever, we were presenting it for our reasons, not their reasons. And so Chuck would go out and he'd present it to all of his friends. He was, you know, played baseball, was in all kinds of baseball leagues and whatever. He was in all city baseball and played for the University of Minnesota. So baseball was his thing. So anyway, he went to all of his buddies that he played ball with, and every one of them turned him down. And he went through eight buddies, okay? Came home, and every time he said, those guys are going to live to regret it. And I would say, regret what? We haven't sponsored one person. So then I said, okay, I have a good friend down in Wisconsin. She and I grew up together, always best of friends. I know that Lois and Leroy will sponsor into this business. So I went down and we sponsored them, and we no more than got home 3 hours later. And they called and said they've decided they weren't interested and to tear up the application. Now, the application cost $1 at that time. I got off the phone and Chuck said, well, they're going to learn to regret that decision. And I said, by that time, I was like, come on, this thing ain't going to work. So Chuck would always say, Joyce, we are intelligent people and we can certainly figure out a better way. And so that's when we developed our Prospecting Made Easy. And I say it's for the terminally shy. Oh, I got to turn that off. It's my son. So sorry about that. I thought I turned it off. I'm on a call. I don't know. I better go. I'm sorry. I don't know where to put this.
Okay.
I thought I turned it off. I'm sorry. But anyway, so we dispelled and I said, according to the scripture, the meek shall inherit the earth. And this is a program for the meek. And so we decided to build our business that way. And Chuck, we would say, okay, this is what we do. We each have a little pocket calendar. We take that little pocket calendar and we carry it. I carry it in my purse. You take it to work. You have conversations. Out of every conversation, you're going to find a reason why that person needs Shaklee. And we're not going to talk to them about Shaklee. We're not going to say anything about Shaklee. We're going to write down the conversation. And then 2 days later, when you've gained enough courage to call them, you call them and you're ready to talk to them. And you say, I've been thinking about the conversation that we had on Monday. where we talked about such and such and such. And I'm just wondering if you'd be open to hearing about something that I think may be a benefit to you. And as a result of that, we started sponsoring all kinds of people. We sponsored a total of 14 with 150 in our group in the first 6 months in the business. Well, then what we discovered is now we had, this massive amount of people, but people would probably buy 1 or 2 products. And, whatever they were introduced to, they wouldn't ever buy any more. And sometimes they'd drop out. And so that's when Chuck and I decided that we were going to start doing what we called our new member education. Now, we've done this program since 1970. There's nothing new in this program. Okay? It's just what we've done. I still, to this day, run 15 to 18,000 personal PV. Why do I do that? I'm sure that some of you on this phone are saying, wow, is that stupid? Why aren't you breaking some of these people out or putting them under people? We tried that a couple of times and they didn't like it. And we lost them. So we decided, why not just garner all of these people that are, happy to be with you? So we started what we call a new member education. Now, the new member education, people say, well, how do you get people to do it? Oh my gosh. I'm on a call, Bill.
Okay, bye.
That's my son. I hope it's not an emergency, but anyway, sorry about that. I ruined your recording, but anyway.
No worries. Are you kidding?
So anyway, we started new member education, but people say, how do you get the appointment? Well, the appointment comes with a letter that you send out as a welcome letter. And here's what it says in my welcome letter. Enclosed, you will find a new member education checklist, which allows you to learn and earn $50 in free products once you have completed the educational requirements. I will be calling you to see when we can set up an appointment.
That's pretty simple.
That's simple, right? So then what we did is we put together a new member or a checklist, and we used to send out tapes, and we had about 10, 12 tapes that we would send out, and they'd send them back to us, and but it worked. And now what we've done is we have taken, and on our new member education checklist, we say, Prove It Challenge channel, Shaklee Science channel, Shaklee Heritage channel, Shaklee Nutrition channel, Healthy Beauty channel, Shaklee Performance channel, Healthy Weight Shaklee 180 channel, Healthy Home channel, and the Shaklee Opportunity channel. And then we indicate what particular things we would like them to listen to. And none of these things are more than 3 minutes in length, but at least they're getting an overall introduction to Shaklee. And then we have with that a feedback form. So they send us back their feedback so we know that they have done it. Then they get their $50 in free products. But in order to get the products, they have to experience at least 10 different Shaklee products of their choice. Now you're probably thinking that's a lot. But if they buy the Get Clean kit, think how many products they have there. It could be shampoo, it could be their deodorant, it could be whatever it is. They have to try 10 different Shaklee products in order to get the money that they're going to get. And, does everybody take you up on this? No. But if enough people do, you're going to have lifers. And we've learned that. So anyway, so then also in that packet, we put in a earn a bonus chart, okay? So they can put this on their refrigerator and they can mark their PV and they can figure out exactly what they're doing and what levels it brings them to. And then also in that packet, we put the Shaklee compensation plan that we've used since 1970. Why change something that works, right? So anyway, I told people one time, there is nothing unique about Shaklee. We are, of Joyce and Chuck, we are boringly consistent. So if you can be boringly consistent, you could become a master coordinator, right? And so this Shaklee compensation plan was the plan that Chuck put together that he left with everyone that he did the opportunity with, so they could then share it with their family and friends. Okay, so that's my welcome packet. Then they asked me, what do I do for a catalog presentation? Well, I used to do charts, and they would take their, from their, now I gotta find all my notes. I made a mess of stuff here, I guess. Okay, so what did I do with that? Oh, here it is. Okay, so then I put together for my group, I used to put together actual notes that, because I told people, I was so terrified when I got into Shaklee that to sit down with somebody and go through the catalog was absolutely miserable. So I said, I put it together. I had charts on one side, the page of the catalog on the other side. I read my notes. They looked at their catalog, so they weren't staring at me, and it made it very comfortable for me to do. So that's the way we started doing our presentations. Well, now, I'm not doing that anymore. But what I do is I have people take a catalog and have sticky notes and 2 catalogs, and they place the sticky notes as tabs in their catalog, numbering them according to the progression of what they want to talk about. And every one of us are going to be doing it differently. There isn't any one of us that'll do it the same. So I start out, of course, talking about Dr. Shaklee, talking about the company. I also talk about the Shaklee difference. And the first product I start with is Basic H. Why do I start with Basic H? This is a nutrition company. Well, I found that if people are more, I'll say to them now, I'm sure you do some cleaning or you have a cleaning lady. Wouldn't it be nice to use some products that are really safe for your family and safe for the environment? And so let's talk about those products and show you why they're unique. And if I have an opportunity to do a demonstration, I'll do that. And I actually have a demonstration that I've done on my Google files, so people could watch that if they want to. But the reality is, if you get them excited about Basic H and they realize how unique that product is, and you say that this is an example of what all of our products are about. And I had a lady come to my meeting about 5 years ago. And it was a meeting that I was doing for one of my sales leaders. And she came, and she was a nurse practitioner. And she said, I want you to know up front that I'm just not interested in nutrition. She said, I don't believe in it. She said, all vitamins are alike. And, kind of went on and on and on. And I said, you don't have to consider nutrition. I said, but I'm going to show you a Shaklee difference video, which I did. And then I started out with the cleaning products. And she got excited about the cleaning products. And she's a physician's assistant. Her husband is a cardiologist. Now she gives everyone that has a new home a Get Clean kit as a housewarming gift. And so anyway, and now she and her husband both are using all the nutritional products, because she said, I never knew there was a company with that kind of credibility. And she probably does $300 to $400 a month, doesn't want to build a business, doesn't want to sponsor anyone, but that's okay. The fact that she's a consistent user. So after I go through Get Clean and cover the cleaners, just do basically, then I start out with a landmark study. And I talk to them about the fact that we have the same kind of credibility when it comes to our nutritional products. And here's an example through our landmark study. And then I go through the Prove It Challenge, the Life Shake, the Vitalizer and Life Strip, Neology, the Vitalize, Building a Strong Immune System, the Vivix, and Turmeric. And that's where I stop. Then I do nutrition for kids. Then I do go through labels and ingredients, which I think is, important to go back to the back page and show them you can find out exactly what's in every one of your products by going to this back page if you're concerned about the content of the products. And then we go through nutrition for kids. No, I did that already. Healthy weight, products for athletes, healthy skin, and membership benefits. I have them then filled out an interest indicator. What do I use for that? I think it's one that Shaklee put out, but I have it in my files. And it says, live healthier, feel better, go green. and it talks about healthy nutrition, healthy weight, whatever. They check off the things that they want. And then when we get done, I open it to questions from that person or whatever. And I even do this for a group presentation. I'll give them all catalogs and we go through the catalog together. And then I have them fill this out. And if I'm doing a group presentation, I'm there to sell product. Okay. And then I hand out an order form. But if I'm just doing it for an education, I tell that person I'm coming here strictly to educate you. And I'm not coming here to try to push a sale on you. I said, if you want to buy, that's fine. But I'm not going to push a sale on you. I just want you to be aware of all of the options that are available to you. And once you know all the options that are available to you, then you can pick and choose. And so, I don't do anything fancy. It's simple. You know what I mean? How did I build my business? How did we get 150 people in our group? Because I did 2 skincare presentations every week without fail. And at those presentations, I always handed out an interest indicator so I could follow up on those people and sponsor people and whatever. And as a result of that, I would work down underneath people until we had built a network of people. And we ended up breaking out 4 sales leaders, 4 coordinators, 4 sales leaders, within less than a year that were doing 3,000 PV. And you know what? I never, ever, in all the time I've been in Shaklee, have gone below 10,000 PV. Why is that the case? Because Bob Hoper, that many of you may know, was my upline. And he had a plaque that he hung in his office. And on that plaque, when you did over 10,000 PV and you were the leader in his group, your name went on a brass plaque on that wooden plaque. And if you got more over 10,000 and the highest, you got the plaque to take home. Well, I had those on my walls because by gum, I was going to get on that plaque by gum. But so anyway, because it was the incentive that he had, which was simple, a plaque, with our names on it. And then he'd send out a $10,000 recognition letter to you, thanking you for your $10,000 PV. So anyway, but when I did my skincares, one of the things I would do is I'd find out, were they interested in strictly, skincare cosmetics, or would they like to also, include supplements? And when I did the one with the supplements, I did anti-aging nutrients inside and out. And so I talked about nutrition as well as talking about the skincare, how it impacts your skin and whatever. So then I would incorporate the nutrition. Whenever I did my skincare presentation, I also did a basic age demonstration, and I also did an instant protein Vitally while the mask was on. Now, people say to me, how many people do you get out to a meeting? I would say I didn't want any more than 4 people. And the reason for that was I found out early in my career that if you had 8 or 10 people, the 4 people sitting closest to you were more likely to connect with you, relate to you, and were more likely to, respond and buy and whatever. So I started doing only 4 people. And when people said that they couldn't get 4 people out, and I'd say, if you get 1 new people, we've got a successful event. And I'll tell you about my most successful event. I drove 3 hours away to a small town called Hackensack, Minnesota. And I was to do a skincare meeting in the afternoon, an opportunity meeting at night. The next day I was supposed to do a skincare meeting, supposed to do an opportunity meeting. When we sat down, we're ready to do our session, the only person there was Goldie. And Goldie had come to Minneapolis to already learn everything from me. So I turned to Evelyn and I said, isn't there one single person that you could think of that would come here on the spur of the moment and listen to us? And she said, well, there's a lady that they lived on a lake that came up from Milwaukee to this cottage. And so anyway, she called Agnes. Agnes came over. Agnes bought a gallon of Basic H and a Suddenly Fire lipstick. And I went home crying because no other meetings are. So I asked, would you like your, so there she was. And I said to Evelyn, I said, now who do you have coming for the evening? She said, well, I think just Goldie. Now Goldie knew everything that I had to say. So I said to Agnes, I went back out to Agnes and I said, I'm just wondering if you have any plans for this evening. And she said, well, I don't know. She said, I'll go home and I'll talk to my husband. We'll see. So they came. All I sold for that whole 3 days that I was gone, hiring a babysitter and whatever, was a Suddenly Fire lipstick and a gallon of Basic H. Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Agnes calls from Milwaukee, which is 600 miles away from us. And she says, I'd like to order 2 cases of gallons of Basic H and 2 cases of Suddenly Fire lipstick. And she got Chuck on the phone. He said, wow, you must have some excited people about those 2 products. And she said, oh yeah, all my church ladies, I've told them about it and they're so excited. And so Chuck said, how would you like it if Joyce and I came to Milwaukee and did a meeting for you? Just like Joyce did in Hackensack. Now we drive 6 hours wondering, will anybody be there? Well, she had about 6 ladies out for skincare and about 6 people out for the opportunity. And we went through people after people after people. And our largest organization comes out of Milwaukee, out of that one failed skincare. So I tell you, one person can make a world of difference. So don't discount it. I had a lady one time that had only one person. And she came out in the kitchen. She was almost weeping. And I said, I went out to the kitchen. She was almost weeping. She said, I'm so sorry. And I said, what are you sorry about? I said that we just sold over $300 worth of products to one individual. And she's talking about her sister and her cousin and all these people that would like these products. Now, do you think we had a successful event? And she said, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. So the reality is, don't discount the fact that you have one, because one can, is a very, very powerful thing. So now you want me to talk about what? You ask me some questions, Carolyn. You're muted.
Sorry. This is classic, and it is so fundamental. Do you guys get this? How fundamental this is, and how simple it is, and how applicable this is. And I don't care whether you're someone who's spending your life on social media or anything. This is the fundamentals. And I'm just writing down notes. One of them that you said, Joyce, was when you have a skincare, it's the 4 people that are around you that you connect with the most. So
Right.
It isn't like numbers of bodies and people. It's who do we connect with?
Right.
You want to say some more about that one, Joyce?
Yeah. So I would tell people when they were going to have an event, I said, I don't want any more than 4 people. I said, because I want what you can fit around your kitchen table. Because I said, I want to be able to, have a conversation with all of them. And if we have too many, there isn't any way to communicate with them, to have a conversation with them or whatever. And the first skincare presentation I did was for a neighbor across the street. And then those days we would fill bowls with water. Okay. I sat down at the end of the table and I said to them, I hope you don't mind. I'm just a little bit nervous and I would prefer to sit if you don't mind. And I sat down and I shook the table. So there was water streaming over the table. And they said, Joyce, we're just neighbors. I said, I don't care. This is scaring me to death. But I got better at it. So then I remember I used to carry everything but the kitchen sink. You a box after box. And I came home one night after going up 3 flights of stairs to do a meeting at the University of Minnesota. And it was hotter than Hades. And they had fans going, and it was miserable. And I came home and I'd sold 2 items. And I said to Chuck, you can take this business, you can stuff it. I am not doing this anymore. I said, I'm through. And he said, now come on, Joyce. He said, as a basketball coach, if I lost on a Tuesday night, did I stop my feet and have a tirade and say, I'm not going to play again Friday night? No, he said, we went back to the drawing board and we decided what it is we're doing wrong, and we're going to change it. So he said, you're a smart lady. Figure out simply. That day forward, I carried a little box, and I tell people to get this little office boxes when I get them. Put your products in there and take a briefcase with some literature and walk into. Nobody wanted to do what I was doing. Who would want to haul crap all over a place? No. So anyway, when I started going in with a little case here and a what do you call it, a briefcase, I got all kinds of followers because now it was copyable. So whatever you do, it's got to be simple. It's got to be copyable. And when I finally figured out this, Chuck said to me, see, what did I tell you? If I hadn't had my coach, I'd have been done before we even started. So anyway, but, and so we had meetings at home, when we first started out, when we became sales leaders, I would sit outside on a chair outside the door. And Chuck would then call and say, Joyce, it's time for you to talk. And I'd come in and I'd hyperventilate through my whole presentation. And the people would say to me, you know, Joyce, we're friends. I said, I don't care. I don't care. So believe me, if I could make it, anybody can make it. If you're terrified about getting in front of people, believe me, you're talking to one. It took me 2 years to get comfortable talking in front of people. Would you believe that today? No. So how do I find prospects? Well, the way to find prospects is to carry on conversations. The better you get at conversing, the better you get at listening, the more likely you are to have all kinds of leads. You will never, ever run out of contacts if you just listen in every conversation. One of the first people that I tried this on was my friend Rita. We were at a birthday party. I never talk Shaklee at a birthday party. I don't talk it, you know, even when I talk to the person that I'm going to talk to about talking to me, I don't talk about Shaklee. And now maybe that's wrong, but it's worked for me. And so anyway, because I've had too many people that know what Shaklee is, and it's a turnoff. And when I call that person up and say, you know, we've been talking about, had this conversation, I think I have something that can be beneficial to you. Would you be open to hearing about it? And when it got to the point that it talked about Shaklee, it said, oh, Shaklee, I know all about that. I said, no, you don't. I said, you wanted to find out what you could do to help yourself, and I'm able to help you, and it happens to be with Shaklee. And so, you know, the reality is become the very, very best listener you can be. My kids used to say, when we went to any place and I got in a long line in the restroom, they would say to me, how many of you who wants to bet mother's going to come out with a name? And I usually did. Because I listened to conversation, you know, you ask them about their family, you know, why are you here for this trip or whatever it is, and, you know, all kinds of things. And when you get done, you end up with something you can approach them with Shaklee with. And then you say to them, you know, I think I have something that can help you with that situation. Would you be open to hearing about it? And I would say, we don't have the time to discuss it here, but if you give me your phone number, I'd be happy to talk to you. And they give you phone numbers. If you're willing to help them, they're willing to give you phone numbers. Now, as far as my new member education, does everybody do it? No, absolutely not. But if a big enough percentage of them do it, you're never going to worry about PV. The month that we broke out as master coordinators, we did 40,000 PV. In those days, that was real money. In 1977, that was some real money. And so anyway, we broke out 5 sales leaders and we were packing our own products. We had our basement stairway and all the way up filled, and the UPS driver said, that's enough of this. I am not going to go down in your basement to haul any more products. So we had to put them out in the garage. Do you know that when we ended up that year, that month, becoming master coordinators, we still had 18,000 PV. Hoker always said, if you have enough personal group PV that you don't have to worry about breaking people out, you can break them out freely and you're never going to be in trouble. So he said, just get as much personal group PV that you can count on so that you don't ever have to worry about breaking people out. And I think that's the problem we have today. Everybody's running a 2,000 PV, and how do you break anybody out with 2,000 PV? You can't. And they're doing 2,000 PV and they're doing 2,500 PV or whatever. We try to encourage our people to do at least 3,000 to 5,000 PV. So, okay, any more questions? I don't know how much longer I've got.
Well, we're gonna hold you here for as long as we can, and I know there are questions. Scott, do you want to throw in some things?
Yeah, I do. So regarding Bob Hoker, because those of us who grew up in Minnesota, we experienced the magic of Bob Hoker and a lot of dynamic personality traits that he had. And so the plaque is an interesting one that I'm hearing that motivated you to get on that plaque.
Right.
2 questions. What motivated Chuck, by contrast, that was different than what motivated you? And then can you give 2 or 3 pearls of wisdom to the group that made Bob Hoker like the magic that he was? Like, what are 2 or 3 of the things that he did in addition to the plaque that you found that were really smart and creative?
Well, he was really a dynamic person, a dynamic speaker and whatever, but he always talked to us about the magic of goals and the magic of dreams, and that every one of us should really focus on what it was that would drive us to get out the door, and make us go out the door so that we were going to achieve that goal or whatever that is. My goal was never money. I've never been money motivated. That isn't what drove me, but I'm motivated by the things that require money to get them. Okay. So the first thing that I put on my dream board was that I wanted to get back my family farm. And you've probably all heard the story, but I'll tell it to you again. My father, when he graduated from high school, was the top of his class in a little farming community. His father died when he was a senior in high school. His father had wanted him to go to college. Grandmother thought differently, and she put him up on one of the 2 farms that they had and had him batch with his alcoholic brother. And so he farmed for 7 years before he married my mother. And my grandmother always told him that one day that farm would be his. And so he worked his full head off, made that farm very productive. And then one day, Grandma says, well, James is getting married, so I think we'll move James up there and you can come down and farm the lower farm. Well, then the next year, John got married, and so now Dad had no place because John was going to farm the lower farm. So I moved 7 times in my first 9 years of life. I went to 4 different one-room schools. We lived upstairs over other people when my dad would do, farm work for them and whatever. And so anyway, that farm was the one thing, it was where I was born, and I lived till I was 2.5 years old. And it was the one thing that my dad treasured and worried about more than anything. And the day that that farm came up for sale, because the family had, my uncle had, actually run it into the ground, I guess you could say. My dad sat at the kitchen table, and I was about 10 years old. And I put my arms around my daddy and I said, "Don't worry, Daddy, one day I'll get you your farm back." Now here's a 10-year-old girl, doesn't have running water, has an outdoor john, doesn't have electricity. Essentially, I tell people I didn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. But I'm telling Daddy I'm going to get him his farm back. So anyway, in 1972, I tell people you dream in life. And then as time goes by, you realize, you're not going to achieve those goals. And so you start setting them up on the shelf, never to look at them again. And then all of a sudden, Shaklee came along and I thought, I'm going to put that on my board. I'm going to put Deacon Holta, the family farm, on my board. And Chuck came home that day because I always made up the board. We talked about what we wanted on the board, but the beginning of January, always we had our sales leaders and we all brought our vision boards, our dream boards. And on mine was this farmhouse. And Chuck looked at it and he said, "No, pray tell, what is that?" I said, "Well, that's the farm we're going to own one day." And he said, "Joyce, do you have any idea that farms cost a lot more than houses?" And I said, "I don't care, Chuck." I said, "You've ended every presentation you've done with that what you think about, you bring about, and that what you believe and perceive, you can achieve." Now, I said, either you believe that because you made me believe it, or you're just, spouting off words. And I said, I happen to believe that I can achieve that. And he said, "Okay, girl, go for it." So in 1979, the farm came up for sale. And my mother called me and she said, "Joyce, Deacon Holta is for sale. And you've always said that you wanted to get the farm back." And I said, "Oh, Mama," I started crying. I said, it's too early. I don't have enough money, I don't think, to do it. And she said, "Well, if you don't do it now, it'll probably be lost forever." So when we went down and finally, Chuck relented and we went to the banker, already there was a farmer out of Iowa that had applied for a loan. There was a realtor out of La Crosse that had applied for a loan. There was a college professor out of Rochester, Minnesota that had applied for a loan. And the banker said, "If you and Chuck can qualify, that farm will be yours because we believe in keeping things in the community around here." So Daddy would go to town and tell everybody, "Joyce is going to get my farm back." And they would say to him and laugh, "There's nobody in your family can afford that farm." And so anyway, came time to buy the farm and we did not have enough money. We had to put $58,000 down. That was real money in those days. We came up with $38,000. And I said to Daddy, we're not going to have it happen. He said, "I'm not going to town and have people laugh at me." He said, "I've got a $20,000 annuity. I'll check it in. I'll cash it in. You pay it back whenever you can." So we bought the farm. And the first thing that my dad did when he walked on that farm was to get down on his knees and cry. It was the greatest gift I could have ever given my father. And then we started fencing the farm and doing things, and Chuck fell in love with that farm just like I have. And now I've gifted it to my 2 younger sons. And the other thing that we wanted to stay in our family, and I got the next thing I put on my vision board was the lake property on Lake Minnetonka. And it was property that was owned by his parents. And we had wanted to buy that. And they said, "Well, just wait until, they pass away." Well, his mother came up with a figure after Grandpa died because she said, "You guys have poured all the money into it. You spent all the time on there. That's where Chuck and I went, was our first home." And she said, I'm going to see that you get that. Well, we had to pay for it, of course. But now I have moved out of that home because of my husband's failing health, but I still own the cottage on Lake Minnetonka that my husband and I started our married life. Now, both of those properties are $1 million properties. I was not money driven, but Shaklee gave me the money that I needed to acquire the things that I dreamed about. And I tell people, if you can dream the impossible dream, a dream that will make you get out that door every single day, I said, you're going to achieve what you want. And I believe that totally. So that's my story.
That's like, wow. That's wow, Joyce. And, I want to acknowledge a couple of pieces of vision, because part of it is what you have just told and the story of the farm and the things that you and Chuck did for your business. But I say there's another piece of vision that was behind Joyce and has always been there. And that's the connection with Dr. Shaklee. And it's the connection with who we are as a company and what it is we do. It's not just the activities. Would you say something about that?
Yes, when Chuck and I made Sales Leader, which was in April of 1970, Dr. Shaklee was speaking out in Aberdeen, South Dakota. So Chuck got off from school that evening, and the couple across the street from us that's also became sales leaders as a result of hearing Dr. Shaklee drove along with us, and we drove all night long to get to Aberdeen, South Dakota to hear Dr. Shaklee speak. And Chuck always said, they built this man up so much, there's no way. There's no way that a human being can be that amazing. And so we got done, we listened to Dr. Shaklee, and he said, now there's a man that I could follow. And so I said, we decided from that day forward that we were going to do what Dr. Shaklee asked us to do, and that was to improve the lives of everyone we touch. And I said, I still carry that in my heart, improving the lives of everyone I touch. And so if you're thinking about it in that way, and it can be monetarily, it can be, it can be skincare, it could be nutrition, it could be whatever. If you're improving the lives of those people around you, there is nothing more fulfilling. There's never a day that you don't experience some kind of joy or fulfillment as a result of helping others. And I think if you look at Shaklee that way, which Chuck and I have, and with Dr. Shaklee with his vision, I'll have to tell you about one experience, and I think it's really a classic Dr. Shaklee. We were in Puerto Rico for a Shaklee convention, and you probably remember it, Carolyn. And we had piñatas above our tables, and the children were there as well as the adults. And it was mayhem in that room. And Dr. Shaklee got up on the stage, and he called all of the little children to come and sit on the dance floor in front of him. And all of us parents looked at each other and thought, boy, if that isn't going to be chaos. And Dr. Shaklee got up and started to speak, never said anything to the children. He just got up and spoke. And when he spoke, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. There wasn't a child that wiggled. There wasn't a child that, said anything or did anything. You were probably there, Scott, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was the first convention I ever went on.
Yeah. And so anyway, my son Billy came off, and Chuck said to Billy, I can't believe it. How come you guys were so quiet? And he said, when Dr. Shaklee speaks, everybody's got to listen, Daddy. When Dr. Shaklee speaks, everybody's got to listen, Daddy. So that's the kind of dynamic person he was. And I'll have to tell you another story that I think is, because it's so fun to hear about Dr. Shaklee. We were we were at the 1977 when we made Master. We were in London, England, and we were at the Dorchester Hotel, and they were having a banquet for the Keys and Masters. And so Dr. Shaklee got up to speak, and he said, the boys here, he was referring to the president, president and vice president. The boys here told me to talk about about professionalism. as I look across this audience, he said, I see nothing but professionals. He said, let's throw a little ism in with that and forget that subject.
I don't remember that part.
It was just so much fun. And so there were some keys at our table, and they were kind of appalled. I mean, it was like, I said, that's Dr. Shaklee. You know, they were just kind of appalled that he would throw these guys, you know, off him. And then he got into his usual about, you know, his beliefs and, you know, what we should do and how we should care for people and, you know, help your neighbor and all the things that he always used to say. And there was, you would never, the rooms were always impacted by him because he had such a presence. So I'll tell you another story that I think is so funny. We were at a banquet and he was talking and he said, first of all, folks, I want you to know, he said, some poor chickens had to give their life for this banquet. I mean, the things he would say or do were so, I mean, they were so unconventional. Sometimes it was just funny. So he was a great guy, wonderful man. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Joyce? Those stories are great, Joyce. I love that. Who would like to ask any questions? We have 10 minutes left or 8 minutes left.
I just have a comment. Thank you, Joyce, so very much for those stories. But one of the best parts of your presentation tonight was telling your son, I'm in a meeting, because we've all done that, right? We've all said, I'm in a meeting, honey.
Well, not only that, but I'd like to add to that, because there are some of you with whom I've had this conversation, but some of us who are so-called seniors who may have friends in our lives whose kids are concerned about their parents because they're ailing, they're not doing well, they're checking in on them daily for their health. For Joyce, she's too darn busy for that. It's like, leave me alone. I'm doing a meeting. I've got a whole bunch of people here. Thank you for talking. Unless it's an urgency for you, I really don't need to talk to you right now. Stand in line. And just think about the power of that, because the power of that kind of a model that we can set, that we can be that independent, and that our kids know that, yes, they're always going to be in first place, but no, I'm very sorry, but I'm busy right now. I mean, that is just, it is so powerful. And I know I've had that conversation with some of you here on the call tonight. And so let's remember that kind of a role model that we can place. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Richard. Yes, hi, Ann.
Hi, Ann.
I would love to just comment on the fact that these are the stories that I heard 49 years ago or however long ago, and they haven't changed. And we haven't changed. It's the passion and our love of other people. It's, you know, we've learned a lot about high-tech stuff, but the bottom line is, Joyce, you're my hero. I love your stories. And every time I meet new people and I want to blurt out about Shaklee, I think of you. And I remember your little book that you write down little things that remind you a few days later. Right. And all I have to do is get the courage to do what you did and call those people and do that more often. I love your stories, and I love your reel, and you're still just as vibrant as ever. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to be 87 in September, so. And my doctor told me that last physical, I don't have any blood pressure problems. I don't have any health issues. I take thyroid is all. And the doctor said he wouldn't be surprised if I lived to be 105. Do you know what my response was to him? I'm not so sure that's great news.
for the rest of the world, because Joyce is here. Stand by. Stand by.
We love you, Joyce.
Yeah.
Well, I love all of you. I miss all of you. I miss seeing all of you at conventions, I know so many of you that are on this call. And, I told Roger that I was sick and tired of this type of thing where we are being, isolated. And I think it's time we get back to our real fun conferences again, where we can see each other and relate to each other and, hug each other and do whatever. Okay.
Well, that's what's so fun about this. I'd like to close with two things. One of them, Joyce, would you go back and say again your keys to successful prospecting? Because those 3 or 4 steps are absolutely classic.
Okay. So here's what I do. I go and I listen. Okay. I listen for whatever their want or whatever their need is. And everyone in every conversation is going to have something that you're going to trigger and you're going to say, that might relate to that person. The person that I was talking about, that the first one, she had just spilled grape juice all over her carpet, and she had tried everything to get it out. And I didn't tell her right then, oh my gosh, I think I can get it out. I waited 2 days. And then I called her and I said, I think I've got something that may be able to get that spot out. And I went over, I got it out. Then she had problems with her dishwasher and she had spots with this. And by the time I went out, I came out with a fairly large order. And her husband, who was a vice president at Dayton Company, when I came in the door with my little box of cleaners, said, here comes Joyce, the char lady. And we were friends, of course. So when I left, I said, char lady took you for $250.
I love it. So first step was listen. Second step, you make notes of what you heard.
Okay, so you have your little notebook. On Monday, you say that you talked to Sally. And Sally said that she was having all kinds of problems with her kids with ear infections and things of that type. Simple example. So you put that in and you say, Sally, phone number such and such, said that her children were having problems with ear infections. You call her back on Wednesday and you say, hey, Sally, this is Joyce Hoffman. I'm returning a call that I said I was going to make to you, or something to that effect. And then just say, in our conversation on Monday, you said that your children were having problems with ear infections. And I think I have something that can help you because I've helped a lot of people. Would you be open to hearing about it? If you come from the standpoint of helping, everyone's going to be receptive. I have never been able to approach anybody cold. I'm just not good at it. It's better to have a warm, fuzzy. And so then you say to them, so when can we set an appointment to talk about it? And then I will go to her house or we'll get together or whatever, and we'll talk about it. And, that's the way I've done it all my life. I've never put an ad in the paper. I've never done any of those things. I've just listened.
Joyce, you're such an inspiration. And I, on behalf of all of us, I'm going to thank you. And I know we're running out of time, but I have a request or I have a request for all of us that we connect with a personal vision, whatever our personal vision is, and that we stand courageously as Joyce does in all of our conversations, so that between now and tonight and tomorrow, who are the people that we can be listening to, that we can remember the vision of Dr. Shaklee, what he has given to us, however you choose to envision that, and that we can remember the vision of what we're building and who we can make a difference to. And that's the expectation that we all have. That's the message that I get from Joyce and am constantly be re-inspired by. And that's my invitation to all of us, because if we're not in action, all we're doing is taking this in, and it's a nice audience. But when we're in action, we really take the life that Joyce is giving to us and use that inspiration to go where we get to go and let the world know about it. So together, let us give a gigantic thank you very much to you, Joyce.
Thanks, Joyce.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate you coming on and joining us.
Outstanding.
Thank you for being
And you're welcome to join us any Tuesday night.
Am I?
Absolutely.
And any of your people in your organization, please
Absolutely.
make it available to them.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thanks,
Thanks.
Joyce.
good
Good night.
week.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.